The federal government will be losing over 300,000 workers this year. And the offers to resign, they keep on coming. The deferred resignation program, we're on the third round in some agencies like the Department of Defense, HHS, IRS, and there's other ones. They want more and more people to resign. So a lot of people are looking at it saying, why is the federal government so against its workforce? What's happening here? How do we even know that to be true? Well, you can look first at the pay freeze. You, me, everyone else, we acknowledge inflation is a real thing. It erodes your buying power, everyone's buying power. So when you advocate to freeze pay, really what you're doing is you're trying to have a pay decrease. And that's what we're in the middle of right now. The Trump administration, during his first term, they tried to do it a couple of times. Now, Congress usually stepped in and gave us something. Doesn't look like we're going to be that fortunate this year. So take it past that. What do we have aside from the pay freeze? We have the hiring freeze. This puts people in agencies that were looking for promotional opportunities or looking for lateral transfers. It puts them in a situation where those opportunities are not offered anymore, so they're stagnant. They're just going to sit there and wait out this hiring freeze. You have other people, maybe they just got out of the military, they're retired, or they finished with their enlistment term. They're trying to get in. Then you have collective bargaining agreements being revoked. You have unions just going away completely. There are certain federal agencies that no longer recognize the union. That takes away the federal worker's voice. Then return to office mandate. So looking at studies, 40% of senior managers across the U.S. workforce, they're able to work from home. All C-suites, typically speaking, they can work from home. So it's very interesting that we can trust certain individuals to continue to do the right thing, but when it comes to the federal workforce, largely, they can no longer be trusted. They need to be micromanaged. So instead of micromanaging federal workers, you would think that you would just shift your hiring policies to hire individuals that you trust. Because if you trust somebody, you know they're going to be doing the work, whether you're there or not. Leadership, management cannot always be there, even in a cubicle environment, even in a federal building environment. So you have to have a certain degree of trust, but that hasn't been shown. Then, on top of this, every other month, there's somebody in Congress that wants to reduce the federal pension. That's one of the main things that appeal people to the public sector. It's not the salaries. Because for a lot of these jobs in the federal government, you can get paid more if you go to the private sector. But stability, which is being threatened, security, which is being threatened, and the pension, which continually gets threatened. It's so interesting that this is the new government's approach to its workforce. Because they are trying to surge certain parts of the government, federal law enforcement officers, cybersecurity in certain agencies, specifically the Department of Defense. So you realize that it's important to attract and retain individuals, but you're doing everything possible to not fulfill that. You're doing everything possible to push people away, even though you still need individuals. Most people do not buy the idea that this is just a correction or this is just a right sizing of the federal government. I'm 42 years old. I was born in 1982. The year before I was born, 1981, the federal workforce had 500,000 more workers than we had at the start of 2025. That's 500,000 more workers before I was born in 1981. Now, the population from 1981 till now has increased by almost 50%. A lot of people don't like to make the correlation between the federal workforce and the American public, the U.S. population. But certain agencies, they have to grow when the population increases. Look at Social Security Administration. Even if you automate it, even if you leverage technology, you still need to audit. You still need to audit disability claims to ensure that people should be getting the benefits or should not be getting the benefits. So you need to have more people there. And SSA right now is at an all-time low for staffing. Look at HHS for Medicaid and Medicare. As people increase, you need to staff up. Look at IRS. There's more small businesses in this country today, probably 100% more than in 1981. There's more corporations by over 100%. You need more IRS. I know people don't like the IRS. The VA. Now, the veteran population is decreasing, but you're opening new programs like the PACT Act, where veterans can actually be seen for being exposed to toxic fumes. So you need to staff up so you have the appropriate medical personnel in order to treat them. So why was the messaging, the government is too big? Well, other presidents have done this. Other presidents have pointed to the government as the scapegoat. When their policies are not effective, they point to the federal government. Here's the deal. People are generally unhappy with what's going on in their life, and they need an enemy. They need someone to point out and say, that's the deep state. Those are the bad guys. And I think that's what's being done here today. It is political messaging. It is, you want to know why you're unhappy with your life? It's because of those people in Washington, D.C. Don't take any personal responsibility. Just look at the enemy over here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to eliminate the enemy. That's kind of what's being done to some extent when it comes to politicians pointing at the federal government. Then we have the lack of transparency. You have secret meetings taking place in agencies, workers not even understanding what's happening. They have to hear it from the news. They have to hear it from the media because their leadership within the agency, they've been signing NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. They can't even have the transparency with their workforce. You don't have trust unless you have transparency. Those two things go hand in hand. And then when it comes to the firing, rehiring, oh, you accepted the deferred resignation program? Oh, actually, you can't accept it. Those type of shenanigans that have been happening in a lot of different agencies, it impacts the perceived stability of your job. Then we have to talk about burnout. Because even though we're seeing over 300,000 workers leave, the workload isn't reduced. You still have to perform. And when you have offices, take an office and reduce it by 20% or 25%. There were people in 2024, there were federal employees that were burnt out. I'm looking at the Social Security Administration first and foremost. Those individuals, a lot of them, they get burned out quick and they don't get paid that much. But in other offices, look at the VA, the Department of Housing. There were offices where people were burnt out. They had too much workload. Add to that now, you're going to reduce people from the office. 5 people here, 10 people there, 20 people. The work has to get accomplished. So it gets put on somebody who's already have a full workload. Now they have extra assignments on top. Now they have to track additional reports on top of what they were doing in the first place. And if they don't get it done, now they're worried about their performance review. Is this going to be an opportunity to get rid of them as well? They understand that the stability aspect of their job has been removed. So the stress level is increased. This is one of the reasons that the survey this year, when it comes to the satisfaction score on federal agencies, that has been removed completely. There is no desire to want to see things or hear things from the federal worker perspective because everything is going to be extremely negative. And who can blame federal workers? It's like a non-stop onslaught. But it is incredibly dangerous to continue to be hostile to your workforce. For number one, it reduces public trust. Then you're going to lose institutional knowledge as there's an exodus of people leaving out of that negative situation. And I've always said, when you look at an organization that's forcing people out, who are the first people to leave? When you're squeezing an organization, people that have options leave because they're not forced to endure a toxic environment. And then generally lower and lower morale. How low will it go? It's anyone's guess. But the big question is, when will the hostility be over? When will it come to an end? Well, it'll come to an end when the political incentives dry up, when there's no longer a political incentive. When will that be? The first marker, the first indication it could occur is next year during midterms, 2026. The House could flip, and that could create more of a resistance against anti-federal worker policies. You never know. The Senate could even flip, right? No telling. We'll have to see what happens in 2026. Then, after that, really, you're looking at 2029. 2029, a new administration comes in, could reverse a lot of these policies. Now, unfortunately, if we still had unions at a lot of these federal agencies, the federal workers' voice could be heard. If we still had the survey, the federal workers' voice could be heard, but we don't have those things anymore. If you want to know exactly what happened with the annual survey and why that's been completely scrapped for this upcoming year, if you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.